God is not a tyrant who demands subservience to impossible demands, but rather a God who actively seeks restoration and relationship. Well, good morning. It is good to be here and to be with you. It has been a very busy couple weeks, I would say, for me. Getting to know you, getting to meet you, and getting to know the amazing staff. There has just been all highs. We do highs and lows in my family. Do you ever do that? There is no lows, all highs. It's been amazing. I am looking forward to connecting with all of you on a more intentional and deep way and just learn your story. So we will have time to connect in the near future. Today we get to hear from Jesus about some stories that he told. I'm going to read to you from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verses 1 through 10, and I am reading to you from the Message translation. I can't see. I will try. By this time, a lot of men and women of questionable reputation were hanging around Jesus, listening intently. The Pharisees and religion scholars were not pleased, not at all pleased. They growled. He takes in sinners and eats meals with them, treating them like old friends. Their grumbling triggered this story. Suppose one of you had 100 sheep and lost one. Wouldn't you leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the lost one until you found it? When found, you can be sure you would put it across your shoulders, rejoicing. And when you got home, call in your friends and neighbors saying, "Celebrate with me, I found my lost sheep." Count on it. There's more joy in heaven over one sinner's rescued life than over 99 good people in no need of rescue. Or imagine a woman who has 10 coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and scour the house, looking in every nook and cranny until she finds it? And when she finds it, you can be sure she'll call her friends and neighbors, "Celebrate with me, I found my lost coin." Count on it. That's the kind of party God's angels throw every time one lost soul turns to God. That is some good news. Well, our text begins with the grumbling, though, right? From the Pharisees. They're upset with Jesus spending all of this time with people they consider to be questionable, right? People of poor repute, lepers and sinners, tax collectors, women of the night. These people of questionable repute are drawn to Jesus. They listen intently to what he has to say, and in turn, he is giving his time and attention to them. Not only is he spending time teaching to them, he is going to their homes. He's breaking bread at their table. He's receiving their hospitality and offering up his own by the way of presence and belonging and care. And it is an affront to the Pharisees and the scribes. This dynamic that is at play, it wasn't new then, and it is certainly present now. This idea of power, of who deserves attention, of who is in and who is out. Now, of course, I don't believe that the Pharisees would have characterized it that way, right? They would have seen things a little bit differently. We demonize the Pharisees often, and they make it pretty easy to do so. But this morning, I just want to soften our approach for a moment. The Pharisees and scribes were God-fearing believers. They were devoted to the Torah, to God. They did not merely talk about faith, but truly tried to live it and embody it. They saw loving God as giving their full respect and careful obedience to the law. And it certainly was not an easy way of life, but they strived to do so as a means of setting an example, to offer a way to thrive in the world that was not defined by the ways of the world. Their belief and their aim was to show people how it was possible and pleasing to live according to God's will. And I don't believe they were uninterested in sinners. It was their approach to the sinners that misses the mark, right? It creates this perspective that hardens their heart and closes them off to others rather than creating an openness and a desire to know them. They seemed to believe that the very best way to help these sinners was to hold up a high standard of faithful obedience. In their minds, this acted as an invitation to join them by pointing out where they were falling short. Their hope was that the guilt, right, and shame of it all would help to create attention and serve as a motivation within them to turn a new leaf, to do better. And this binary, this dual mindset of some make good choices, some don't, let's not mix the two, that was their system. The system is still in play today, right? Most of us like rules, especially when they're clear and hopefully just. We respect those who obey them. We much easily dismiss those who don't. And the result is this dichotomy that like stays with like, right? And they don't mix. Unless one is open to saving. Then, those who follow the rules are allowed to walk the line with the sinner as long as they're attempting to do the work that would cross them over to the other side. This work of saving the lost to the Pharisees and to some other Christians is good work. But to Jesus, they're missing the heart of God. See, in this context of the Pharisees, but also throughout Christian history, saving is defined ultimately by power and hierarchy. That was their view of God, of the holy. God was up here, the righteous are here, and the sinners down here, right? And Jesus was messing with this system. He was giving favor to those, to the lowly. And for the Pharisees, and for some today, the sinners coming close and drawing near was threatening. Would they usurp their place as an insider? Would they be displaced from their own positions of nearness? When our power is diminished, our safety feels threatened. And Jesus understood this. And that is what he's offering these parables in response to. He cares for the Pharisees too. He's longing for them to see beyond themselves, beyond the box they've relegated God to recognize their own lostness. He tells the stories of the parables to invite them into their own transformation. So let's talk about the parables for a minute. I don't know about you, but for a long time, I thought the lost lamb and the lost coin represented sinners that were out there, right? Way beyond the fold, beyond the purview of God and the church and me. But no. If you hear the story, the lost lamb in the first parable belongs to the shepherd's flock from the very beginning of the story. It's his lamb. And it's the same in the second parable. The coin belongs to the woman before she loses it. The coin is one of her very own. The message Jesus is trying to send to the Pharisees is this: the sinners that Jesus is spending time with have been a part of the fold all along. They have always belonged to God's flock. There is no doubt. It's not in question. God is not a tyrant who demands subservience to impossible demands, but rather a God who actively seeks restoration and relationship. A God who is merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. A God that, if you are nowhere to be found, will seek high and low until they find you. And lostness happens to us all. It happens within beloved community. It happens within family structures. It happens in our own interior lives. We don't live a life that is so neat and tidy and so linear that once we cross over from sinful lostness to this righteous foundness, we're all set. I don't know anyone who can claim that for themselves. We get lost over and over and over again, and God comes finding us over and over and over again. Lostness is not ever something to be considered as blasphemous. It's part and parcel of the life of faith. And I wonder about you. I wonder, what does it mean to be lost to you in your story? There's probably as many answers as there are people in this room. Have you ever lost your sense of belonging? Have the people you loved and have relied on broken trust? Have you lost vision for your future or the ability to persevere? Are you questioning God's presence in your life? We all go through hardship and strife, and we may find ourselves doubting God's goodness. We may feel our faith wavering underneath us. Maybe it's an illness that has invaded our body or someone that we hold dear. Or death visits far too soon or too suddenly for those that we love. Relationships fail. Bitterness can take over. Our children can break our hearts. Anxiety and depression and addiction become an all too frequent occurrence. We get lost, so miserably lost that we lose hope and we succumb to despair and fear. Have you found yourself there? Have you ever been so wounded, so broken, that all you could do was just curl up and not even call out for help? Did you know that when a sheep is lost, it is capable of bleeding out in distress, but most of the time it won't? It is too filled with fear, and so its natural tendency is just to curl up, find a wild brush to hide in, curl up to hide from its predators, and be silent, be hidden. Turn insular. This metaphor that Jesus gives hits powerfully close to home, doesn't it? Thank goodness we have a God who likens himself to a good shepherd and a persevering housewife that will wander the wilderness to search for our whereabouts, that will not leave one stone unturned, but will persist, will endure, will turn the house upside down until we are found. I believe Jesus is giving these parables to cast vision for what a flourishing life of faith looks like. We need community. We are meant for a communal life. But God is never about leading us to follow the crowd or about our own path to the inside. And he never draws a hard line about those of different walks of life or different ways of thinking. It's to the contrary. The closer we get to God, the more our relationship with the holy deepens. We experience greater intimacy with the divine, and our capacity to love grows. Our hearts break. They break open for those that are hurting, for the lost. The grace that we experience fills us with empathy and longing for others to find that wholeness and healing. It moves us to action. It moves us towards flourishing. These parables of Jesus make it clear that God's kingdom encompasses all. All belong. All are beloved. All are deeply desired by God from the get-go. That is simply the foundation that we get to stand on. It doesn't end there. We have a God that pursues the lost, a God who is not afraid to go where lostness reigns, who will wander the wilderness and explore the most remote corners of the house, you can be sure God is where the search is at its fiercest. So what does that mean for us? It means understanding that God is in the business of finding, even when we can't recognize our own lostness. And it is this finding where transformation happens, where grace reigns and holds our tender and broken hearts, and we begin to see differently. The light that is born of our experience with God's grace illuminates a path that shifts how we perceive and respond to life. And we are changed. You know the song. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Something I think is important to note is that when the finding happens and the sheep is thrown across the shepherd's shoulders to bring home, and the coin is clasped in the joyful woman's hands, there is no mention of sinful behavior. Not one word. No lecture is given, no conditions on the future. It is only joy. Pure, pure joy. Rejoicing happens when one returns to the fold. When God's community takes a step towards greater wholeness, it is worth celebrating. It is worth a party. The finding isn't the end of the story. The joy, the celebration is. Friends, this is the kingdom of God, a place that erupts in wild applause, not when someone grasps a theological idea or believe in a specific doctrine, but when they are simply found. To be a part of God's kingdom is not having life or faith all figured out. It is where we experience being found and fawned over with great joy and celebration. And it happens over and over again. Because goodness, we get lost in this life more than once. As I leave you today, I invite you to reflect on your own life, on your own story. Do you have a story about being lost and being found? Are you feeling lost now or somewhere in between? Wherever you are on this journey of life, I hope that you know deep in your body that you belong, that you are of great value to God's flock. You are the precious coin. And us, this community of Hennepin Avenue, is here to celebrate and party every time one of us is found. I want to share this quote. It's from a Sufi mystic, a Muslim mystic from the 13th century. His name was Rumi, and he's known to be said, "What you seek is seeking you." And I think that is so true. What may even be truer is that what we can't or even won't seek sometimes is still seeking us. It is God's grace. It is pure grace. It is amazing grace that finds us. Amen.